Hey, how you doing? I got the shades on. It's a beautiful blue sky, sunny day today. I want to talk about those who are struggling with addiction. I know how real it is. I know how much pain you're going through. Those that are struggling with addiction. I have struggled with addiction. I have struggled with compulsiveness. I've struggled with just myself, where I feel like I have my own personal demons that I'm trying to rid. I know that most of you have been there, and I know that you don't want to be feeling isolated. You don't want to feel like you're being jaded. I know what it means to feel broken, to feel empty, to feel discouraged, to feel despaired, to feel like there is no one that cares, that there is no one who is looking out for you in your best interests. You feel like you're desperate. You feel like you're alone. You feel like you don't have any hope to cope what is beyond measured. That you could look at the possibilities of where I got to the place that I'm at. There are there are those that carry themselves very well outwardly. They may display strength, they may display stoicism, they may carry themselves financially, and all of that is just the outward surface. But inwardly, they are falling apart. They are dead inside. They are empty inside. They are suffering. They are going through all psychological of pain inside their mind. And there are those that could be alive, but they're not living. You know what I mean? Like, you could be breathing, you could be where you feel like there is nothing hindering your physical condition, but yet you have a mental condition that strips you of your whole identity, that strips you of your whole entire life, that makes your physical identity into something that is absent because of addiction. And I want to just let you know that if you're going through mental addiction of any kind, if you're going through where you have a compulsive disorder, if you're going through where you just can't break free from what you're going through, there is hope. I want to let you know that you are not alone. Do you know that I speak about God, I speak about the body, on how it's primarily its own entity, even outside of our own will, that is mentally, spiritually. I want to let you know that I struggle with addiction. I struggle with lust. I struggle with even giving into fornicating. Like, I struggle with that. And it's my flesh. And I'm not saying this to tell you that I'm somebody who is purposely living as a hypocrite. I'm telling you that I have a love for God, I have a love for Christ, and yet I struggle with mental addiction, internet sensations. I struggle with thoughts of this world. I struggle with just pleasures that are constantly something that has never been rooted out of me fully. And I'm not ashamed to say it, because I've committed adultery, I've committed fornication, I've committed, acts of violence in my mind towards others that have done things against me, that have offended me. I had thoughts of murder. I had even thoughts of just suicide, just thoughts of it, not literally wanting myself to commit suicide, but I just thought of myself not wanting to be in this world. And I'm just saying, there are things that I thought about that really put me in a very dark place in my spiritual walk, just because of what was inside of me, just because what was attaching itself to me. You know, there is no greater love than the love that you can get from God, even when you're in your suffering, even when you're standing on worldly shoes, standing in worldly shoes, I'm going to put it, where you're just fighting against what is my ultimate prevailing going to actually come, where I'm going to be set free, when I'm not going to be in this position of hurting, in this position of doubt, struggle, frustration. Do you know a lot of rejection that we get often is what causes us to deal with psychological issues and to go to places that we normally wouldn't go. Drug addictions have to do with feeling like there is no hope in this world, that life feels meaningless, like what's the purpose of all of this that is of me wandering. You know, you think about how one could possibly end up in a position where they're in the street and yet they were living, you know, carefree at one particular point where they were making all this money, they were someone successful, and then they become somebody that is in the streets, that is homeless, and they spent all of their money that they had on feeding their addictions because they don't feel fulfilled, and they make bad choices, and then they fall in a very heavy pit, a pit that is dug very deep. Do you know, when I see someone who's a drug addict on the street, I try to find out what their story is. If I end up speaking to a drug addict, how did they become a drug addict? I don't point the finger and say, you're on drugs, so you're not somebody who is upright, you're someone who's not in a good position. I don't look at people with labeling. I look at what is their hurt, what is their struggle. There are people who are addicts that need help, and there are people who, I'm going to say, purposely are wanting to be addicts. They're wanting to do drugs for the purpose of, they just want to simply get high, and they just have that mindset of just seeking, you know, gratification, and just, there are those that carry this lascivious attitude, behavior, mindset deliberately, and there are those that are doing evil because they want to do evil. There is no question, but there are those that are simply severely hurting, and you don't know a person until you actually sit down with them and you have a conversation. Someone who is homeless outside of a convenience store, and they may come up and ask for money or ask for food. They may look like they've been on heroin, or they may look like they've been on drugs, but why did they get there? Because I look at myself, I could be in the shoes of one of these people, and I could be saying and asking the same thing from whoever walks by me. I put myself in the shoes of other people, and it's not to look the other way of the actions. For an example, that if a person is doing something that is wrong behavior, or it's not to point out and to say when something is wrong to say that it's justifiable. That's not what I'm advocating. What I'm speaking about is people are doing things to themselves, to other people. They're hurting themselves. They're hurting potentially other people because the hurt that's inside of them is where they're looking to take every vengeance out on this world around them. And we only have this life that God has given us. And people who are suffering in this life, that aren't able to get the most out of the life that they have, it just comes to show you that people are really living a life of suffering, a life that is almost like they have been robbed of everything that they should have been given. So I pray for these people. I pray even for my own self, but more so, it's not about me. It's about the decisions that lead to actually bearing fruit. You know, actually doing what is the way of how God tells us to go and love our neighbor and to love one another as we love ourselves, to love the Creator. People stereotype other people every day. There is a lot of tragedy that goes on every day. There's a lot of missed opportunities that people end up losing. There's a lot of every unknown and every variable that could just take place or just could happen at any given moment. And I just want to also point something out. You have to appreciate your youth while you have it. You have to appreciate the fact that being young is when you're at the height of your life's purpose. And we take youth for granted like it is something that's always going to be here, but in reality it isn't. I'm 37 years old, and do you know that I realize that I'm soon going to eventually hit middle-aged? And I really think about this. I think about my purpose in life. I think about my everyday mortality. I think about, you know, that one day it's going to happen to me like everyone else. I'm going to leave this world. One day I'm going to face death. And we try to not think about, you know, life or death in terms of having to face it. Some people are so afraid of life that to them, life is so scary, even more so than death itself. But death, ultimately being the end, is the scariest thought. It's the scariest reality, because most of us that don't have hope in this world look at death as ceasing, that it's the end, that there is no life after. And do you know, there are all different ways that a person could be taken out of this world: a disease, a deadly cancer, chronological illness. You could have your life being taken by someone unexpectedly. Someone could just take your life with a gun or a knife. You can get into an accident, a collision, and you can end up losing your life. You could fall off of a cliff. You could be killed by a wild predator, depending on where you're at. You could just pass on in your sleep. You could die in your sleep one day. This is just all of what is available to us as far as all of what could literally happen to us at any given moment. I mean, where is the preciousness of life that if you look at it really deeply, we have taken it for granted. We have taken our youth for granted. And yes, it's a blessing every day that you get, every day that you're alive. If you see someone that you know that you love, tell them that you love them, because you don't know when the last time you're going to be able to say to them that I love you. When you have someone that is close to you, remind yourself that this person is close to me, because you don't know how long that closeness is going to stay. Every day you wake up, thank God that you're alive. Thank God that He's given you another day. See, look at this. This is something that is precious. It's treasures right here. Make your days count. Help somebody if you can. Even if you can't make a legacy on a monumental type of scale, you can do it in just the small deeds, the smallest amount of giving, and practice gratitude, humility. I tell you, the more lessons I learn in life, the more I'm able to accept whatever comes my way. I'm able to focus on the giving that I'm supposed to give. So I wanted to make this video here to show you that do not take anything for granted.